Hey you guys, today I'm going to talk a little bit about my journey as a minimalist. I don't necessarily like the title minimalist though, just more of my journey with practicing minimalism, where I've come from and how I got here. My name's Leslie and my family's been practicing minimalism for a couple of years now as we downsized by 90% so that we could travel full time. When I was a kid, I had way too much stuff. My room was always packed. It was never neat. And there were times where I can remember having so much furniture and stuff in my room that the doors, it was very not feng shui. I feel like there was a room that I had as a teenager where you had to open the door up all the way and then sort of edge in around this humongous drafting table. I loved the drafting table and it was awesome, but I probably should have had less other things in my room if I wanted to fit a giant piece of furniture like that in there. I got my first taste of minimalism when I was in my early 20s and I went to Europe to travel. And I lived in France in a dorm room for one full school year. When I went to Europe, I basically took only what would fit in my backpack. And I backpacked for a few months. And then I moved into the dorms and I bought a few things. Meaning I bought some pots and pans to cook with and some dishes to eat on. I think I had a few pieces of artwork on the walls, and that was things like postcards I had picked up, or I had a wall hanging I put up. But really, I had my clothes and just some stuff to eat with, and that was about it. And my room was always spotless. And I had all this free time that I had never had before. I felt this real sense of freedom in not having a ton of things to deal with, and I was able to just enjoy myself and have a good time there. All right, so I love to go out in the desert and make these videos out there, but it gets really windy, and I think we're a little shaded from the wind here. So I'm gonna have to finish it over here because it was just getting too noisy. So my grandparents sold everything they owned, and that was really shocking for a lot of people. It was shocking for me at the time. I loved all the stuff that they had, but they said that when you own lots of things, the stuff begins to own you. And they felt owned by their stuff, and they didn't want it to be that way anymore. And in fact, they sold everything and moved out here in a little truck to Arizona to be in the desert, which is where we are right now. They came out here to do some gold prospecting, and that is actually what inspired us to do gold prospecting. So I'm thinking that they planted a little seed in my brain at that point in time, even though at the time I thought of it as something shocking. It obviously is something that I ended up doing in my own life. But it took me many years before I started living life like that. So in the meantime, I made many moves with many boxes. And one of the things that I love is books. And books are heavy. And I think we probably had like 30 to 40 boxes of books. And I moved around a lot. I moved to Chicago. And in Chicago, I moved many times. And then I moved to Florida, where I moved a couple of times. And then I moved to South Carolina, where I moved a couple of times. And then that was when we had the flood and decided to do some serious downsizing. But we moved this insane amount of boxes every single time, and it was exhausting. When we moved from Florida to South Carolina, I said, I never want to move again. I want to live in this house forever. Maybe we'll buy this house someday from the people we're renting it from. I never want to move again. And then obviously the house flooded and we had to move. But yeah, packing up all your stuff and moving, it's expensive and it's heavy, and just the whole idea of moving was almost traumatic to me. Just the thought of carrying all those boxes up and down flights of stairs and stuff. Like, why didn't I do this sooner, downsizing? I just can't believe I moved that many times with that much stuff. Johnny and I are the kind of people that want to go lots of places and live lots of places and experience lots of different things. He was like that separate, and I was like that separate. And then when we came together, we were like, yeah, let's go. So we were always wanting to move somewhere new. And a lot of times it would be many, many states away. Even when we lived in Florida, we almost moved to Texas once, to the point that I packed up the entire house getting ready to go. And then we talked about moving to Oregon. We talked about moving to Maryland. We talked about moving everywhere. So obviously living in an RV and traveling is the right thing for us to do. That was just perfect for us. Moving, when you've got a ton of stuff and a ton of boxes, it's incredibly expensive. Moving from one house to another is incredibly expensive. Even if you're renting, you've got to come up with your deposit and all this money to get the move to happen. So we're super happy living in this RV now, and when we decided we wanted to move, it took a couple of days to make a move. And then we get to stay however long we want and then move again whenever we feel like it. So that's some of what minimalism has allowed us in our life, is that ability to make these quick moves and do the things we really want to do without it being hard and slow and painful. And that's what it was when we lived in a house and had all this stuff. It was expensive, and I just felt like my dreams were getting away from me, because I am a traveler at heart. I have always felt like traveling is in my blood. And I was born overseas. My mom lived overseas throughout her childhood. My grandparents lived all over the place when I was a kid. So I've always felt that was just something that was a part of me, to be a traveler. Johnny is the same way. He traveled around the country when he was really young, all over the place. I think he's been to almost every state. And then he has done a little bit of overseas travel as well. So that was just something that was a part of us and makes sense for us to do this. But when we were living in a house with all this stuff, I felt like our dreams were just slipping by. We had these interests and these things we wanted to do, and the years were just flying by, and we weren't doing them, partly because all this stuff was holding us back. It was too expensive to move with all this stuff, and it just wasn't easy to move with all this stuff and all the things that go along with living in a house. So for me, minimalism and the idea of getting rid of everything, as hard as it was at the time, was perfect, and has allowed us to step into the life that we really want to be in. And we're still on our way there. We're not exactly where we want to be, but we're making strides, where when we had all this stuff holding us back, it held us back huge and didn't let us get ahead at all. I was working in a career that I called my accidental career, because it was nothing that I was interested in or wanted to do, and just the idea that life was slipping me by really stunk. So we had this big disaster. We had the flood. And after the flood, we continued to have things happen. It wasn't like the flood happened and then we kind of relaxed back into life. It was the flood happened, and then we had people around us having disastrous situations, and then our dog died, and we had all these holidays coming up, so we're going through the holidays through all this. And then Johnny had a big injury, and it was just it seemed like every 2 or 3 weeks something major happened, and we could not get our breath. And I was like, done. I was like, let's sell it all. Johnny wanted to move to California, and I didn't want to go because California's got some problems. But I was like, if we sell everything and go light and get an RV and go like that, it might be really fun, and then we aren't tied to the one place, and we're light. We can move easy. We can make changes if we need to, and that just feels so good, being able to make the changes when we need to, because we don't have a ton of stuff weighing us down, because stuff really does tie you to a place. We keep enough stuff that we can live comfortably, and the stuff that we have is stuff that we want right now. But when we want to go, within a couple of hours, we can be packed up and out of here, which is awesome. So one of my big goals in life has been to live a life that I don't have to take a vacation from. And that is what we're in the process of creating right now. Like I said, we've still got a ways to go before we really get to where we want to be and get the things done that we really want to do. But we are taking those steps and we're making that happen. And minimalism has been an integral part of that. Without practicing minimalism, we would not be here. We could not be here. And I like here. Here is fun. We are having a great time and loving the journey, where for a while the journey was painful and we didn't really see where we were going to end up on the whole thing. But now the journey is fun and we're really enjoying things. So that is my minimalism story. That is where I've come from and why I'm practicing minimalism and why I enjoy it. That's that. If you got some value out of this video, I'd love it if you'd hit the like button below and share it with your friends if this is something that would be valuable to them as well. And please subscribe for more videos like this. I'll see you in the next one. See ya. Oh, is the wind? Are you serious? Stop. Hair, get out of my face. Oh man, stupid wind. Are you kidding me? Okay, you crazy kids. Blah, blah.